Hey, how's it going? So, we're back with another video and a whole bunch more movies. So, hopefully, I can get through this pretty quickly. Let's dive in. Now, the first two movies I'm going to talk about are Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3, and I'm going to lump those together because they're kind of the same thing. So, the first Sleepaway Camp, if you're not familiar with it, there's a girl named Angela, and there's a big reveal at the end of it, of the first one, and basically she runs around killing people around this camp. A little bit more of a, if I remember correctly, it was a little more gory than Jason movies, the Friday the 13th, but probably not, a little more fun rather than him stalking everybody around. She's definitely stalking people and killing them, but it's not quite the same vibe. So she doesn't die at the end of it, and the second one kind of picks up where the first one left off a few years later. So she's a little older, and she's at a different camp, and of course, the people at this camp heard about that camp and all the things that happened, and they don't really try to hide who the killer is this time. I mean, you know who she is, and she's running around. And the thing is, part 2 and part 3 are both kind of the same. Like, she takes over a different camp in each one, and she's running around stalking and killing people in each one. Personally, I actually like the second one really a lot better than the third one. The third one has maybe a few more kills, maybe a few more cool kills in it, but the third one is just kind of the same as the second one. And the second one was really good because it was kind of an original idea, a different take on some of the slasher films. But I think 2 definitely won out over 3. I liked them both. I enjoyed them both. They were fun. I gave part 2 a 3.5 out of 5, and I gave part 3 a 3 out of 5. The next movie on the list, and those were both from 1988 and 1989. And I believe I read they were filmed kind of back to back or alongside each other. So, and the other thing too is, I think Bruce Springsteen's little sister is the main character in both these. I think there's a few other movies, but these were the only ones that Amazon had, so that's all I got into, and that's really all that's on my list anyway. The next one was Puppetmaster 2. I kind of fell asleep in this one, and it was an okay movie. You kind of get the guy that made the puppets back. He gets brought back to life with some magic juice, and he's trying to get some girl and who he thinks is like the ancestor of his girlfriend or something, and I don't know, it was okay. What you're watching these for is the puppets. The actual story for these things is kind of not that great. I gave this one 2.5 out of 5 stars. Now, this next one was not on my list, but this is one that Shudder came out with, and I loved this movie. I thought this was fantastic. This is The Cleansing Hour, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved this movie. There's a group of people who they go around filming exorcisms, and the one guy's a priest, but he's not a priest. He's just playing like a priest. I guess he got booted out and wasn't able to do it. So he just goes on and he's trying to get followers. He's trying to get viewers. He's got his own YouTube channel or Facebook page or whatever it is that they're peddling. And they're trying to make money off of it, and they're trying to get big. Well, turns out one of their exorcisms turns out to be real. And things get really, real fast. And it gets gnarly. One of their helpers gets just torched alive, and they keep trying to put him out, but some chick runs over with a fire extinguisher, and it just lights him up even harder because it starts belting out flame too. So the guy just gets murdered hard, and then some other guy has a run-in with some rats and stuff, and there's some decent CGI in here. The movie kind of feels a little bit B-movie-ish, but then again, there were some really cool twists to it, and there was some really interesting ideas in here, and I could not take my eyes off this movie. I enjoyed this all the way through. Some movies you find yourself reaching for your phone because you get a little bit bored, and then something picks up. This movie was not action-packed, but it was interesting all the way through. The entire time, you're just interested in it, and I really dug that one quite a bit. Again, I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. There's a couple of big twists to it, and I loved it. I thought it was great. I couldn't get enough of this movie. So this is probably, and this was not on my list, but this is probably going to be my favorite movie out of this entire month because it was a far different idea than I've seen before, and I loved it. I love original stuff like this, and I really dug it. Unfortunately, the next day I watched Tobe Hooper's Night Terrors. This movie's about as big a piece of shit as you can imagine. Hooper's made some good movies, Texas Chainsaw, and there was the Funhouse one. And then he's made some really just kind of bad ones, like Eaten Alive, I thought was terrible. I didn't like it. This thing is a huge piece of shit. This has got Robert Englund in it. It gets into some softcore porn every once in a while. Like, it doesn't really know what it wants to be. It's sort of a horror, sort of softcore porn. And then, I don't know, there's a dude naked riding a horse. It's like, okay, whatever. I didn't really get it. It's something to do with the Marquis de Sade, and the 120 Days of Sodom or whatever he wrote. And I don't know. I think they tried to take his story and adapt it into some modern take on things, but it was a really bad modern take. And it was just boring. That was the worst part of it. It was just absolutely boring. I mean, there was nothing that remotely interesting that happened. I can't really tell you much about it because I don't remember a lot. It was kind of pathetic. I watched it and I'm like, man, this is just bad. I couldn't do it. So I gave this one 1 star out of 5. This thing was just horrendous. And if you think about ever watching this movie, just don't even waste your time. It is just so god awful bad. And you get to the end and you think, oh, maybe there's going to be a little redemption with a kind of a cool ending or something. No, it's boring all the way through. I was reading on my phone all the time. I could not get through this thing fast enough. And it's a long movie too. It's like an hour and 40 minutes or something. It just drags on and just doesn't quit. Oh God. And there was not anything that I really wanted to enjoy out of it. Like, I would compare this to Yoga Hosers. Yoga Hosers is the most god-awful piece of shit too. There was one thing in Yoga Hosers. There was one monster towards the end that I liked the costume of. There was like nothing of that in Night Terrors. It was just terrible. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, stay away from this one. This one sucked. And kind of continuing the trend of mediocre to bad, I've got a few of these here. Remember how I said all the movies up until now I was enjoying them, I was having a good time. Yeah, I hit this one. It was a piece of shit. But I moved on to Killjoy, which is another bad B movie, but this one was entertaining. I liked it. I ended up giving this one 2.5 out of 5 stars. There's some people in the hood, and I don't think I counted as this, but it's a primarily black cast, which I needed a movie for that in this marathon. This one fits the bill. And the second one fits the bill too, but I really only used these because I already had the DVD set for the 1, 2, and 3. And part 2 was going to be one of the second movies from a franchise. So I really just watched Killjoy for the second movie in the franchise, which is Killjoy II. However, Killjoy was decent. I enjoyed this. This is a bad B movie. It's not really good at all, really. But it was entertaining. So where Night Terrors was just flat out boring and long, Killjoy's like an hour and 10 minutes. Like, it breezes through. It's funny. It's got some entertaining parts to it. Whoever played Killjoy, I love the dude that played him. He looked great. He had a personality to him. Like, he brought off this really weird serial killing clown. He brought it to life. And unfortunately, he did not continue to part 2. It was some other guy in part 2, and the guy just didn't have the personality that was the same. And I didn't like the second one hardly at all. And the second one wasn't even in like the hood or anything. It was out in some forest somewhere. It was odd the way it played out. I'm like, this doesn't feel like the original Killjoy. It feels like somebody just made a crappy version of it, and it was entertaining in some regards, but like I said, it just didn't have the personality to it. And the fun factor and the first one, it needs to be in that hood environment. It needs to have gang members and all that. That was kind of what the first one was about. Some kid that was getting picked on all the time called for Killjoy to come out and kill the gangbangers, and he did. And it was kind of entertaining with some of them. Like some dude starts shooting him. Next thing you know, Killjoy just belts out a bunch of machine gun bullets from his face and mouth and just guns this guy down. It was kind of neat, little stuff like that. And some of the stuff he said and the way he said it and the personality he had, it was perfect for that environment. And for them to go from Killjoy, the original Killjoy, and then just take it out into some backwoods somewhere, just didn't work. The other guy didn't work. None of it worked. And I did not bother with Killjoy 3. I don't think I'm going to. There's a few of them, I think. But if I don't think any of them have the original guy in it. So, I mean, that guy brought the personality of Killjoy out. So if he's not going to be there, then I just don't think I'm interested. I would watch the original again. I thought it was fun. I gave the original 2.5 out of 5 stars, and I gave the second one 1.5 out of 5 stars. It was just meh. And then the final movie that I'm going to talk about today is one called The Evil One. Now, this was the one that I actually picked for my primarily black cast. And I actually liked the cast on it. I thought they were great. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed the story probably more than I should have. This is kind of a weird movie. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bad B movie. It's almost like a made-for-TV movie or a soap opera, a very long soap opera. And this thing was clocked in at like an hour and 50 minutes. This was a really hard watch because it's so long and it's not boring. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things going on, but the pacing is so god-awful slow. It is horrendously slow. Like even the music's really mellow and slow, and the line delivery, they'll pause in between words, and it's so slow to get this movie done. I had to watch this in like 2 parts. I couldn't take it, man. It was just brutally slow. They could have chopped a bunch of things out. They could have sped up the dialogue, and this could have been hour and 20, hour and 30 minutes and been a much better movie for it. The music was okay. The cast, like I said, I really liked the cast. I thought they were decent. When they're not delivering soap opera lines, I mean, they had some personality, they had some character to them, and I enjoyed the way they interacted together. So the premise of the whole thing, The Evil One is a dude named H.H. Holmes from the 1800s. He was a famous serial killer back up in Chicago, and this movie takes place in Chicago, and the whole story is that like his ancestors, or one of his ancestors is now out killing people or something, and it's his spirit taking the guy over or whatever. It was an interesting idea, but it could have been done, like I said, a lot less boring. And unfortunately, this is not the movie to watch for H.H. Holmes. That guy, he deserves his own movie. He had like this murder castle. He had like a hotel, and he would get people to come stay there. And he had like back rooms and hidden areas where he could just go murder somebody and mutilate him and whatever he could do with them. And then just bury him in the basement or whatever. He had hidden passages throughout the walls and stuff. This movie was none of that. This was just some crazy guy in an asylum or whatever. Unfortunately, it wasn't that great of a movie. I gave this one 2 out of 5 stars. It could have been so much better. Whether they had the H.H. Holmes angle in it or not, just telling the story in a quicker pace and quicker dialogue, just not delivering it like soap opera thing. If they could have, this could have been a solid 3.5 movie if they'd have done some work on it to deliver it the way it should have been. Unfortunately, they didn't, so it's just a 2 out of 5 for me. But at any rate, where am I at in my list here? We are on October 12th, and I have got 17 movies down. The next set's going to be interesting. I'll probably check these out tomorrow. The next ones are going to be The Human Centipede 1, 2, and 3. And I don't know, man. These movies are going to be rough. I am not looking forward to them. At the same time, I do look forward to them because I'm curious how they go. But we'll see. So those three are going to be body horror, and then the second from a franchise, and takes care of a few bullet points on my list. But at any rate, that's where we're at right now. I'm well ahead of schedule on my list, and I've got the rest of the week. This is only Monday, so I still have quite a few days off on my vacation, and I will definitely be done. Hell, I might be done with this list before the week ends, and then I've still got like 2 more weeks of movies to watch, so I could probably relax and just watch one every few. I'll pull a bunch of audibles or something. But at any rate, that's it. Take care.